Hello fantastic creatures, I'm Fantasims, and this video is going to be real quick. It's just a response we got from SumGuruRomeo talking about horses and ponds, and he says, "Good morning everyone, yesterday was full of excitement around the new expansion pack. The team here cannot wait for you to get your hands on it and start playing. We have a lot more information coming soon, but I wanted to address two specific topics I saw come up yesterday. Why are horses not in Cottage living?" He says, "Making horses with the quality and depth of gameplay they deserve is a substantial undertaking. We felt they are not core to the garden to table experience, so we focused on the animals that are in Cottage living. We always are listening to your input on what you all would like to see for future releases, and we will continue to do so as we expand The Sims 4. So they're not ruling out horses altogether, just that it's too complex to put in a pack that's already jam-packed with a bunch of stuff. And I can understand this because when it comes to horses, they are very difficult to animate, especially because players are going to want to have their Sims be able to ride the horses, so there's going to have to be different animations of how they interact with each other. Ages ago, it was already found that there is actually code sitting in the game for horses. It was just incomplete, so it seems like they've been toying with the idea. So who knows, maybe a future upcoming pack might have horses in it. The second one, can my Sims swim in ponds? We wanted to provide players with as much flexibility in customizing the looks and shapes of their ponds. Because of this, Sims will not be able to swim in them. However, we wanted to make sure there was fun gameplay associated with ponds. You can find Sims splashing in the pond's edges, catching fish that you have stocked in the pond, as well as decorate your pond with brand new objects and VFX. Now the VFX is, we've already seen the ducks, so there are going to be animated ducks that can swim in your pond, but also Iron Seagull actually just reported earlier that there's also going to be alligators. Apparently in a Deligracy stream or something, SumGuruRomeo actually explained for the pond tool that you will be able to place an alligator. He confirmed later that it was an alligator. Definitely watched that video for more details, but it looks like there might even be some more creatures put in it or more animations, but it's cool because not only can you have fish in it, you can have ducks, you can have alligators, and this is going to be a base game update. Like the pond terrain tool is a base game update, so it's not going to cater solely to this new pack. So even though alligators and some of the other things might not make sense to a more British style pack, it is going to make sense to some of the other worlds we have, like Jungle Adventure, and I think there are already alligators in Jungle Adventure in the world. So they probably just animated them and made them possible to be put in our ponds, which is really cool. So that's the only update so far. He hasn't said anything about some of the magical predictions about fairies or about anything else. And I know I'm not trying to be irritating talking about fairies. I personally, I don't really care if fairies are in my game or not. My only passion for the game is if we could get like medieval, and my only animal that I am diehard wanting is a dragon. So anything else to me is a bonus. So I'm not trying to push fairies because that's personally what I want. It's just there are just so many clues at the moment that seem to be pointing that there's this hidden place within the new world we're getting with the new pack, and it just seems magical. And here he does talk a bit more about the animals that come with the game. The question was asked if we can customize the animals like the rabbits and the birds and chickens and stuff like that in CAS, and SumGuruRomeo says these animals are not available in CAS. However, you will be able to purchase various colors of cows, chickens, and llamas. Okay, so that rainbow looking cow in the trailer is actually like a pre-made one, so you won't be able to paint them and stuff like that like you can with cats and dogs, which makes sense because they made an entire pack about cats and dogs, and there's a lot more animals in this pack. It would be very difficult to also put them into the same kind of CAS mechanism. For rabbits, you will need to explore the world and befriend the rabbit in your desired color. Oh, you will also be able to apply the animal clothing in game. Okay, so the rabbits, I guess, are pre-colored, so you can't change them. Once you befriend them, that's the color that they're always going to be, but you can add clothing to them. And yes, Romeo confirms that ponds will be free to everyone when Cottage Living drops, and he says it will function in conjunction with terrain tool. You will use the terrain tool to dig the hole you want, and then you will use a separate water tool to fill said hole in your desired height. Oh, that's so cool. So you can make it as deep as you want, and then you can choose how deep you want the water to be as well. So that's even better than I thought it would be. And so there is a bit of disappointment about not being able to swim in the ponds, but I kind of get it because there has to be a certain slope, kind of like when you use the terrain tool that we can use at the moment to make a hill or whatever. The Sims can't walk up it unless it's a perfectly smooth slope at a certain height. If it's too steep, they won't go up it. So it makes sense because unlike the pool edge where they can just jump into the pool, they'd have to be able to wade into the deeper end of the pond to be able to swim in it. And so you'd have to make sure that your slope was a perfect decline in order for the Sims to go down in and then swim. So I'm not saying that it would be impossible to implement that, but I do think that that is a huge update. That would just be a very massive undertaking. So, I mean, they also have to weigh out their priorities of what they're working on. So I know there's a lot of things that we all really want, but it must be really hard to try and figure out what the most important things are for the community and for the game. And so someone brought up the valid question of, so is this a pool then or false advertisement showing this in the new Henford on Bagley world? And SumGuruRomeo responds, what you see here is the Bagley River from the new world. The new world of Henford on Bagley will have various locations swims can swim off lot. That's really cool actually. So they can swim in the river. I think that's really neat. So I guess there must be some way for them to be able to get into the water, but it might be that because they created this river, they created a very specific animation for them to get into the river to swim. Whereas if we're creating our own custom ponds, we're all going to have different variations of heights, different variations of how deep and wide it is. And so the same animation couldn't apply to every different shape of pond that we could possibly create. So it makes sense to me. Ooh, and this might actually be a sneaky hint towards fairies. This simmer commented, thanks for letting us know. With this upcoming expansion, was the team inspired by a real place, more specifically Isle of Skye, Scotland, with an image of a fairy? And Romeo responds, lots of inspiration from the Cotswolds. So I don't want to irritate anyone with talk of fairies or anything like that. Whether it's fairies, whether it's something else, I don't know. There's something magical going on in this pack. And as my lovely friend Sim Donut pointed out, these are called ring forts and sometimes fairy forts, and they look identical to what we have seen in the image of this hidden world that the bunny kind of starts to crawl into his little house, and then it pans over to this image of this new world, this new part of the world that we'll be getting, but there's no explanation in the video. And this is always common with expansion trailers. The initial trailer never shows everything until the gameplay trailer goes into greater detail. I'm happy with the pack the way that it is. I'm not trying to be greedy or anything like that. I don't expect there to be these massive things added to the pack, but there's no denying that something else is going on. And as the beautiful, is it Sassy or Sassy? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She made the great point that the stone circle spiral on the left side of the map looks exactly like the one in the Fairy Glen on Isle of Skye in Scotland. If you Google it, it looks just the same, and you can even see it on Google Maps. So I don't know, but I just think it's surprising because on Twitter at the moment, there's tons of people talking about horses and fairies, and SumGuruRomeo only seems to be addressing horses that as a definitive no. The same thing happened with cars. Cars have been definitively said no to when they were brought up. So the fact that they haven't even addressed fairies makes me wonder if there's something to do with it or something similar. So we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, that's it for now. That's all they've talked about. So until the next update, I freaking love you guys.